This is an elite level. This is one of the top bodybuilders in the world.
With arguably the best core the sport has ever seen.
And he is getting a full workout in basically what you can do in almost any Holiday Inn.
He does a big hitch in his deadlift, which is very reminiscent of Derek Poundstone. It's really cool to see how he remaneuvers his positioning to actually get to lockout. Rob Kearney is an absolute beast.
He's the strongest tested raw 120 kilogram male in the world right now. Hey folks, welcome to Strength Weekly, the weekly YouTube, internet, digital, on your phone show that brings you everything you need to know from around the barbell game. My co-host Phil Blackman agrees with me. I'm David Thomas Tao. We're bringing this to you from barbend.com. And a little teaser at the end, Phil's going to talk about the most anabolic meal ever. Is it called the garbage plate? Is it native to Rochester, New York? We'll get to that, but you're going to have to watch the entire episode to find out. Phil, we have lots of big stories happening. Might as well dive into the run of show. We have a massive retirement announcement from one of the most well-known strongman athletes in the world. We have a 500-pound deadlift triple done with one hand. We're going to talk about who, why, what, where, and maybe most importantly, how. Then we talk about potentially the strongest known super heavyweight raw powerlifter in the world and why his recent deadlift double might signal momentous things for powerlifting in 2025. So we're going to be looking ahead to the future here. And last but certainly not least, men's physique champion Ryan Terry shares a great arms workout on the road. We're going to talk about why that's important. And look, summer's coming up. People want their beach bods, but they're also going to be traveling a lot. What lessons can we take from this for staying fit with minimal equipment, maybe working out in hotel gyms? Phil, let's get right into it. Maybe the biggest story leading up to World's Strongest Man besides predictions. Rob Kearney, multi-time World's Strongest Man competitor with a storied career, 15-year career in the sport, has announced his retirement after the 2024 edition of the World's Strongest Man. Now, need to put a big disclaimer here. Rob Kearney is a friend of Barbend. He has contributed to Barbend. He's written for us. He's been on our podcast multiple times. Someone we've done videos with. Part of that's because Rob is just a big personality and kind of all over the strength sports world, especially a few years ago. And was making a big impact not only on the field of play, so to speak, but off in trying to shift the culture of strength sports. It is difficult to sum up everything Rob has done because his impact has been extraordinary, both as an elite competitor and also, like I said, in the culture of strength sports. So, Phil, we should just give like the 10,000 foot view here. Who is Rob Kearney? You've been covering strongman for a long time. Give us your rundown of Rob as an athlete. He began strongman in 2009. He actually had a background in CrossFit before that, which is kind of interesting. What are some career highlights that people should know when they think of this guy?
So yeah, Rob Kearney is an absolute monster in the space of strongman and has had a pretty solid career given that it's going to come to an end after this 2024 World's Strongest Man. So some of his highlights, this just most recently at the America's Strongest Man, he was on the podium. He took bronze in 2023. He's got a slew of podiums all the way down across his career. He won the 2017 Giants Live North American Open. That's one of the highlights where he actually won gold. He won the 2019 Arnold Australia contest. That's probably the biggest win of his career. And he is known for what I find to be one of the most entertaining types of deadlift to watch. If you ever watch him deadlift heavy against the other bigger athletes on the world stage, he does a big hitch in his deadlift, which is very reminiscent of Derek Poundstone. And it is awesome to watch. Like if you've never deadlifted yourself in that way, go check out Rob Kearney, pull a heavy deadlift. It's really cool to see how he remaneuvers his positioning to actually get to lockout. Rob Kearney is an absolute beast.
Now, Rob, for his entire career, has been one of the smaller elite level open category strongmen, who are competing internationally. He's about 5'10", about 280 pounds. So he's shorter than a lot of his competitors, and he's also over 100 pounds lighter than a lot of his competitors. So one thing that was always interesting about Rob and watching his career, he was fantastic, but he was doing this at a significant size disadvantage. A few things Rob was known for: prodigious overhead strength. It was in the conversation for potentially setting an all-time world record for the log press. He used a split jerk technique for the log press. We actually see that becoming a little bit more common now. Rob was one of the folks to really pioneer that in the open category of strongman. So Rob is coming off of it and was wrapping up a pretty storied career. Like I said, an International Arnold Classic win, a slew of podium finishes, both in the US and abroad. Rob's also known for a couple other things in the sport of strongman. He was one of the most prominent for his entire career, openly gay competitors in the sport of strongman, actually across strength sports, and use the handle World's Strongest Gay on social media. Now, I don't know if anyone ever truly challenged that because, as far as I know, he was the strongest openly gay strongman competitor in the world. So no one ever came at him and was like, "Ooh, you're not the strongest. You're not the strongest gay competitor in the world. I am." He kind of was like the Dennis Rodman of strongman when it came to hairstyles. Would sport like a rainbow mohawk, which was dope, by the way.
And rainbow beards and stuff. Oh yeah,
rainbow beards. Like fat from like multicolored leggings to like the rainbow mohawk and beard. Like Rob showed up and was a lot of fun.
You knew where he was on the competition floor. Yeah,
like, you knew who it was.
Just look where the colors. Look where the colors. Yeah.
Rob was really very much wearing his heart on his sleeve and wearing his identity on his sleeve and being very open about that in a time, in 2015, 14, 15, 16, when that was a pretty bold move. And frankly, Rob got a lot of hate on social media back then. I remember some of the first times we posted about him. Rob collaborated with Barbell on a Pride Month article and social media posts years ago. I remember Barbell lost a bunch of followers because of it. Like there were some really nasty comments. I think we've seen the culture of strength sports shifting, and a big part of that is Rob's outspokenness, for lack of a better term. And I don't mean outspokenness in like an annoying way. I mean outspokenness in like a way where he's just like, hey, this is who I am, and we exist in these spaces. But also the fact that his competitors rallied around him. And we talk about the community of strongman a lot, right? It's a very small community of folks in these elite categories. They're always competing against each other, spending a lot of time together. They were so incredibly welcoming and supportive of Rob that it really signaled from the top down, from the elites. We are very, very accepting of Rob. We want strongman to be a more accepting place for people of all stripes, backgrounds, beliefs, orientations, etc. And I really have to credit that as having a bit of a domino effect. And I think the sport right now, culturally, is in a very different place than it was even 5 or 6 years ago. I will get off my high horse, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, Phil.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that it's so hard to just to articulate specifically the spots where Rob has shifted the culture in the strength sports space, but his impact is most definitely felt. Like if we look back at where the world was a handful of years ago to where it is now, there's no doubt that in the strength sports space that Rob Kearney's impact has definitely made a difference. Like we hope that we will see him around the strength sport game, even if he's not a competitor, because his impact is monumental. And we've been covering for him for a long time. We've worked with him for a long time. It is hard to overstate what he has done for the space.
Trailblazer Rob Kearney, calling it a career. Hopefully we'll see him in the announcer's booth and still involved in strength sports on the media and coaching side. Rob, cheers to a career. Moving on to Seg 2, Yousef Eddessa, bodybuilder, powerlifter. Wasn't really on our radar. This guy wasn't really on our radar, right? Well, he showed he's got some elite grip strength. A 500-pound one-handed deadlift for 3 with no straps. No straps. Here's the thing. The one-handed deadlift is impressive. It's cool. It's not a competition lift, right? There aren't like super modern day records. But I do want to go back to the history books, some recent history and some history way back when to contextualize the one-handed deadlift. And remember, Yousef did this for a triple. But he was like, straps? No, I got fingers. I got lifting straps built in.
Fingers, ever heard of them? Are they good enough for you? Everybody buying all this gear?
If we want to talk about true records for a one-handed deadlift, you got to go back to October 8th, 1920. Almost 124 years ago. According to the Guinness Book of World Records, a German performer named Hermann Gerner unofficially, so even this is unofficial, set the record for the right-hand bar deadlift, one-handed deadlift, at 330 kilos, or about 727.5 pounds. Officially recorded later on the record at 301 kilos, or 663.5 pounds. So that is the heaviest non-strapped one-handed deadlift we have ever heard of. So you got to go back almost 104 years. Now, let's talk about some recent strapped one-handed deadlifts. Chris Duffin, who has deadlifted with straps 1,000 pounds for multiple reps, squatted 1,000 pounds for multiple reps. He one-handed deadlift 495 pounds for 5. Larry Wheels deadlifted 585 pounds one-handed. Strongman Ivan Makarov reportedly pulled 595 pounds on video one-handed, but they all use straps. Eddessa did not use straps, just a hook grip. And I gotta say, this is one of the most impressive feats of strength, of grip strength, that I have personally seen in my time with barbend, which is the entire time with barbend because I started barbend. So in the past 8 years, I haven't seen any grip feat that I would call significantly more impressive than this. Phil, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. And also particularly that Eddessa doesn't have any competitive powerlifting accolades. We reached out to him. He has not competed in competitive powerlifting, but he did tell us what his 1 rep max is. And we might have to call the Guinness Book of World Records. His 1 rep max deadlift is 785 pounds. Now that's not single-handed, but like you said, you put a pair of straps on this guy and are we inviting him to the World Deadlift Championships? Like, are we in that space? Like this is Mark Felix levels of grip strength on a 500-pound triple.
If I were Yousef, this is, I'm going to speak directly. Yousef, this is a little direct address. The world record one-handed deadlift, according to Guinness, is in the 600s. Assuming you could do more for a single than you could for a triple, interesting.
It's interesting. We're just saying. It's interesting, Yousef. It's interesting.
You know what's cool? World records.
World records. And if you call up Guinness Book of World Records and then you get that plaque, they'll say you are officially amazing, and that's pretty cool.
Oh man, I could use that kind of validation. I'm an elder millennial, so I could definitely use that kind of validation. Look, folks, this is not a record. This is something that's darn cool. And that's the thing about
it's just really cool.
It's not just records. It's not just retirements. We're also bringing you the darn cool, the impressive, the disappointing, the darn cool, everything in between. Speaking of deadlifts, would you mind taking us in for the next segment just to change things up?
Absolutely. Rondel Hunte, he lifts in the 120 kilogram class, and he deadlifted 400 kilograms raw for a double, which is 4.5 kilos over the IPF world record. Why does it matter? Well, he scored 397.5 kilograms at the USAPL Raw Nationals and hasn't yet reached the benchmark of a 400 kilogram pull in competition. That means that next time he competes, if he calls for this kind of weight on the bar, he's going to set a new IPF world record. And as we just talked about in the previous segment, we love that. They're awesome. World records are sweet. And Rondel Hunte, like, if I'm a gambling man, David, not that I am, but if I were, I'm putting all my chips on Rondel Hunte to crack an IPF world record deadlift in his next meet.
The thing about Rondel is he's actually in the top 10 for total, for tested lifters, for tested raw lifters in the world. And he's the only one in that top 10, the only man in that top 10 who is not a super heavyweight, which is important. That means he's the strongest tested raw 120 kilogram male in the world right now, effectively. And you got to think, with his continued progress, is he going to be able to maybe crack the top 5 in tested raw totals in the world as a non-super heavy, which would be super, super darn impressive.
It would be super impressive. You say that his training total is 1,000 kilos, which is 21.5 kilos over the current IPF total world record held by Dennis Cornelius. So, I mean, the range that you're talking about isn't like is it, within the possibility of our future? Are we maybe in that timeline? No, that's like where his training currently is. He just needs the lifting platform to prove it.
Let's talk about this 400 kilogram double. And by the way, Rondel is from Trinidad and Tobago. So not a name we hear a ton in powerlifting, but he's certainly repping. He was lifting in a hot environment. Was this a double or is this 2 back-to-back singles in quick succession? Maybe the latter, because he does a single raw with a hook grip, a rep at 400 kilos, takes a second, grabs straps up without much rest, and then pulls it again. Now, I believe him. He said he was training in a very hot environment. Sweat is obviously the enemy of grip. And he needed to grab those straps because his grip was slipping. I get that. Hot, humid, not good for hook grip. He also said that he actually prefers lifting without straps because they change his positioning. Now, if you've ever deadlifted heavy with straps in a hook grip position, it does actually change your positioning slightly. And at these monumental weights, even a slight change in position makes a difference. So some folks actually, straps obviously help with your grip, but they actually can hurt your positioning when it comes to the pull. Rondel, one of those lifters who recognized that. I thought it was interesting. It was interesting insight. He's like, listen, straps help my grip, and I need the straps because it was sweaty, the bar was slipping. But at the same time, the rest of my positioning, like my posterior chain, my active, how I'm actually executing the pull from a non-grip perspective, I prefer not using straps. Hook gripping into a bar and strapping into a bar, it does place your hands, your forearms, your arms in slightly different positioning. And I think that's a really good takeaway here. And I appreciate him highlighting that. Straps are not, they do help you, but they can also hurt you because they can alter the optimal positioning through your pull. So I thought that was a good takeaway, something we don't hear about a lot. Like wind supportive equipment can actually be a detriment. So I appreciate Rondell shouting that out. I think it's important to know. This is high level stuff. High level.
It's high level. It's very inside baseball, but it is cool to see where it's at. And if you anybody who's watching this, go check out the video of Rondell actually pulling this lift. You'll see the amount of time that he spends between reps is actually pretty minimal. It's very similar to like what a strongman might do in a loading medley. Like he deadlifts, he runs off to grab straps, he runs back and he deadlifts again. Like it's not like he's breathing, he's not, re-chalking or anything. So it's as close to a double as you can get with maybe, a red light going on in the judges booth.
All right. Well, let's move on to our last segment of the day. Ryan Terry, the men's physique Olympia champion, recently shared a workout he did on the road. It was about 45 minutes long, an arms and core workout. And Phil, I wanted to highlight this one because when traveling, right? Travel, it's tough to stay in your routine. You might not have as much time. You might struggle, you might be in a hotel gym or a gym without the weights and equipment you're used to. How am I going to get a hypertrophic response if I don't have access to heavy weights or the equipment, the equipment I want? I really like what Ryan Terry did here because he used a few principles, and I'll ask you, Phil, if you can run us through the workout. He used a few principles when it comes to muscle building and when it comes to optimizing for muscle building and also optimizing for time in the gym that I think can be applied to almost any travel workout, even if you're in a hotel gym with minimal equipment. Phil, can you run us through the workout real quick?
Yeah, so see if you can get the highlighted words here along the way. So he does a giant set of GHD crunches, preacher curls, oblique crunches, and parallel bar dips. He then does a superset of cable tricep pushdowns and rope curls, and then a superset of weighted crunches and oblique crunches. David, can you guess the most important aspect of the workout that was just listed?
The most important aspect? There's so many that we're going to go into.
Then let's go into them because I feel like they don't jump off the page if you're not, as we were talking about, super inside baseball, and they are very valuable if you are traveling on the road.
So I think the concept of, we talk about supersets a lot, but let's talk about giant sets. Phil, what did Terry do here as far as a giant? Because giant sets are something I kind of forget exists, but they're also something that when I remember and I do them if I'm crunched for time or I don't have much equipment, are some of the most effective things you can do. So run us through this giant set, which might be less familiar than a superset for folks.
So if somebody knows what a superset is, which is just combining two exercises together and just doing them without rest between each one, then think of a giant set as just doubling that up. A giant set is 4 or more exercises in a circuit altogether without rest. It is also meant to be timed for efficiency. It improves the pace of your workout, and it usually increases, like, if you think like the areas of a workout that you can change your frequency, you can change your volume, and you can change your load. And the frequency is just the amount of time that you're spending, how frequently you go to the gym, how frequently you train. Giant sets really up the volume and get that heart rate elevated. And it's a way to, if you only have so much time while you're on the road before you have to like travel again, doing giant sets or supersets is the way to get in all of that work.
And he's still alternating. What Terry's doing here is like a superset. Mm-hmm. He's still alternating muscle groups, right? So supersets are often you're not doing the same muscle group back to back. Because of that, you can still, though it's more metabolically challenging, you can still maintain like strength, right? You're not doing two, exercises back to back that tax the same muscle groups, right? I thought this giant set was interesting because he's doing an abdominal exercise, the GHG crunches, then moving on to biceps, targeting biceps with the preacher curls, then moving to oblique crunches, so going back to abdominals, and then moving to parallel bar dips, which is challenging the triceps and chest. But he's always alternating, so he's not taxing the same muscle group back to back. So it's the principle of a superset, 2 supersets tacked together to get maximal efficiency for how much volume you're doing in a given short period of time, while also still applying some of the principles of the superset. Now, giant sets are extra taxing. Supersets are tough. Giant sets are twice as difficult because you're not twice as difficult, but you're going for more time without rest. However, this seems like a darn cool giant set and something you could adapt to even working out in a hotel gym, right?
Yeah. The aspect of this giant set is all you need for this giant set, more or less, is any hotel gym is probably going to have at the bare minimum a set of dumbbells and a weight bench. And outside of like the parallel bar dips where you'd have to you'd have to adjust it to work on the bench, you can more or less do this with just a dumbbell rack. Like this entire thing can be done. So it's not too far off from like the baseline minimum of what you would see in even the smallest of hotel gyms.
Yeah, you could change that to bench dips instead of parallel bar dips, right? Perfect example. Okay, let's move on. The next superset was something. Also, I see this in a lot of hotel gyms. They might have a cable machine, single cable setup, maybe a double cable setup, cable tricep pushdowns, and rope curls. Right, that is a superset. Very traditional arm blasting superset here. Right, Phil. I don't think it's more classic than this.
No, this is also one where when you focus on this, you do a couple rounds of this superset, you will get that pump. Like that is good. Progressive overload, keep that in mind. You want to increase the weight if you're looking for a hypertrophic response. But like, yes, this is just like ABC, just good muscle building technique, tricep pushdowns, rope curls. Like you need no space. If they have a cable machine in the hotel you're staying at, this is the one that's just like easy peasy,
All right, then Terry finished off with another superset of weighted crunches and oblique crunches. Pretty classic way to finish off the core. Get some, great abdominal movement here. Listen, why we highlighted this workout. This is a workout you can do in basically any hotel gym, right? Now, obviously, he used things like parallel bars. He used things like cable machine. You might not have parallel bars. Sub the dips for bench dips, right? Cable machines, a lot of hotel gyms have cable machines now. A lot of hotel gyms have cable machines. But you know what? There are other things you can do. A decent sub for this could be like neutral grip pull-ups, if that's available, if they don't have a cable machine. Neutral grip pull-ups and skull crushers, right? Decent sub for that. All I have to say, this is an elite level. This is one of the top bodybuilders in the world. One of maybe the top physique competitor in the world.
With arguably the best core the sport has ever seen.
And he is getting a full workout in basically what you can do in almost any Holiday Inn, right? And I don't know. I needed that little bit of inspo, Phil. I got a big stretch of travel coming up in a few weeks. I'm going to be on the road for almost 3 weeks in a row, and I need a little inspo. I'm not going to have access to my normal kettlebell kettlebell sports stuff that I do. Maybe I'll do a little hypertrophy block. And I'm not going to look like Ryan Terry, but using these principles, I can get in, get out in under 45 minutes and look a little better for it.
And be done. And just a reminder, everybody who's doing all these weighted crunches and oblique crunches, remember that your abdominals are a muscle like any other muscle. Don't be speeding through those. You want to shorten the muscle. When you do the contraction, when you're doing your concentric portion of the phase, you want to shorten the abdominals to actually get yourself up. That when you shorten the abdominals, your spine will flex. That's if you're in flexion and that's how you do it. Like just my muscle connection, fam. There's just a nice little reminder as we get into beat season.
Mind muscle connection, fam. That is the best ending to anything. Oh, Phil, by the way, you were in Rochester recently. You ate a garbage plate. What is a garbage plate?
So let me explain to everybody what a garbage plate is. Imagine that if you had nachos with literally anything that you wanted on it. Think of anything, whether it's meat, whether it's chicken, any kind of protein on top, with all the different kinds of sauces, all the different kinds of veggies. Like if you could make nachos, dump anything you wanted on it, but then instead of chips, you used French fries or tater tots or sweet potato fries or macaroni salad or literally any other carb you can think of. And let me tell you, if you go to the gym and you get your pump on and then you go crush a garbage plate, you won't fit through your front door. It's awesome.
And on that note, folks, stay anabolic. For barbend.com and for Strength Weekly, I'm David Thomas Tao, joined by Phil Bleckman. Until next week, enjoy.